third webinar. Our previous two webinars offered some great professional insights and support, but today I would like to switch it up a bit. As the UK is in its second nationwide lockdown, I think it can become very easy for a lot of us to focus on the negative impacts that this has on our lives. And that is why I would like to use this time and space today to remind ourselves of some of the positive things that have come out of the pandemic and to acknowledge the people who are contributing to this. I'm going to be speaking with two special guests who have been contributing to COVID-19 relief in Leicester. First joining me will be Parmdeep Vadesha. Parmdeep is an investment professional who currently lives in Leicester with his wife and two children. He holds a BA in finance from Manchester University and an MBA from Loughborough University. He recently became president of the Leicester Rotary Club, where he has been able to play a crucial role in supporting food banks through the COVID-19 crisis. He has enlisted help from local volunteers, and one of which is Beatriz, a second-year DMU student who will be joining us later today to tell us of her experience as a volunteer. But first, I would like to welcome Parmdeep, who is on my left here. So before we get into the great work that you and Rotary have been doing behind the scenes during the COVID-19 crisis, I think it makes sense for you just to provide a brief history of Rotary for anyone who isn't already aware.
Well, the Rotary Club of Leicester was founded in 1916, so over 100 years. And it's really an organisation for people who want to give back to the local community and international. So to give you an example, Rotary has raised, just Rotary alone in terms of its members, have raised over $2 billion to eradicate wild polio in conjunction with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So altogether, I think over $10 billion has been raised, and polio has been eradicated from over 99% of the world, and just a couple of countries left now. So that's just one example of the kind of things they do on a very large scale. Lots of clubs are working together all over the world. And on a smaller scale, clubs like mine have created various things. We've built a trauma centre in Ethiopia. My club alone raised about £160,000 in various different forms. And that's become critically important now with the war, unfortunately, that's going on over there. So we do some amazing work. I suppose the only criticism I have of Rotary is we're just not very good at shouting about it. We tend to just get on with it. So that's Rotary, yeah.
Exactly. And how did you get involved with Rotary?
Well, I graduated from Manchester in 2001, and I started my business 2002, and it was successful. So I wanted to give back and do something, and I just came across Young Enterprise. And in 2004, through Young Enterprise, I started giving lectures at Montfort University to students who wanted to learn about entrepreneurialism, and from somebody like them who was kind of young and just a bit of a startup sort of person. That led on to work with Prince's Trust, and then I started just writing checks for various charities as my business grew. And I just kind of got bored of that because I'd send money to somebody and didn't know what happened with it. So I decided I wanted to be more involved, and in about 2011, 2012, I applied to become a member of the Rotary Club of Leicester, and I was accepted 2013.
So you've mentioned to me in the past that you would like to see a more diverse membership in the Rotary, and I think it's especially important to touch on this subject because there might be some stigma surrounding Rotary and what it is and what it does and who's involved. So are you able to just clarify its function today and your purpose and your visions for Rotary in the future as president now?
Yeah, I mean, becoming president for me is a good example of how Rotary is changing because I'm quite young compared to the average Rotarian. The average Rotarian now in my group is probably about 65, 70 years old. And that's primarily because they don't really market themselves. They're just people who get together and they put money aside and give it away to local and international good causes. They haven't really been focused so much on recruitment. Whereas I've come along with a fresh sort of outlook and my background. So my focus is on working to grow my club into a mixture of kind of the older, well-resourced, because that is an advantage you have being older. You have resources, you have great connections. And I'm trying to well, we actually have put together with Beatriz, I'm sure she'll mention later, a club we're starting just for younger students at Montfort University to start with, where they can go out and get involved in volunteering opportunities and that sort of thing. So, in terms of our diversity, that's changing rapidly. We have a good membership of female members, younger female members as well in our group. So it's certainly changing for the better, and I'm trying my best to improve that.
And so what are some other visions that you have for Rotary as president? So besides diversifying?
Well, we've tried our best to respond to this crisis. I mean, that's been our focus for this year, because before it came along, it was something, people just hadn't planned for charities being forced to close down. And that was something, I mean, charities at the moment in Leicester, from what I've seen, they've been hit in various ways. So volunteers, for example, many of whom would have been older people, just can't get involved because of they're having to self-isolate and that sort of thing. They've had to close their shops, which are a very important part of their fund revenue generation. And also, they've just had lots of problems running events and that sort of thing that would normally bring in money. So they've just been hurt in many different ways. So that, for me, is my focus at this point, is the immediate challenges we're facing because of the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's really quite difficult to watch people, organizations doing great work in local communities struggling when it's not really their fault. And also the demand on them has increased, as you can imagine, with food banks, for example. So they're being squeezed from all different directions, and we're trying our best to help.
Yeah. So when you did become president, it was in July of this year. And I know it's kind of hard to distinguish when the beginning, middle, and end of this pandemic is, but for all intents and purposes, that was kind of the middle of the pandemic for you, that you came into the Rotary and became president. I know you've already mentioned some of them, but for you and the Leicester Rotary, what are some of the initial challenges that you faced? So like you mentioned, did you have to stop any of your work at some point and then restart it, or did you kind of have to change a lot of your work? How did that?
Our work at Rotary, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
We're very fortunate because we're volunteer led and we don't have wages of anybody to pay and stuff like that. So in terms of adapting to what happened, we were very fortunate. We just moved our lunch meetings to Zoom meetings. So I can't, compared to what other people are going through, I can't complain. But I suppose one impact has been mental health, which is something that you don't really appreciate until we had one session where we just wanted to hear views from members to just see how they're kind of managing at the moment, what their life has been like. And it was quite sad, actually, to hear from people who are retired. And because obviously being younger, you're so busy with kids and work and everything, you take it for granted that you're constantly around people. And then you hear from somebody who's retired and they're older, maybe don't have much family around. And for them, that weekly lunch meeting was their main way of socializing with other people. Maybe they did other things that have also been stopped. So and they're scared of going out, some of them, because of being exposed to the virus. So that was a sad thing to see in terms of the impact to my members.
So do you think that COVID-19 has hindered your initial visions in any way? So for example, to diversify the Rotary, or would you say that it's actually acted as sort of a catalyst for that type of change?
Yeah, definitely a catalyst, yeah, because it's much easier to convince people that we need to change when there is a kind of difficult environment, a challenge of some kind, and this is obviously the mother of all challenging environments. So for me to go back to my members and say, we're putting all sorts of technology in place, we're working with students, we're going to recruit more people, we're running an event for International Women's Day next year, all that kind of thing. All these things were very, very easy to put in place because members understand that we need to adapt and do what we can for the community. So I've had no problems with all the kind of initiatives I want to do. So even, for example, running an online Santa this year, I think a lot of members I would have gotten raised eyebrows maybe in the past, but now everyone's so used to Zoom and how things are going. It was very straightforward. I managed to recruit one of my members to be Santa, but don't tell my kids that.
What were you holding over?
And it was great, and I've actually had a lot of fun just trying to think of different things that we can do. So Our members are currently putting together hampers, which we're donating. And if anybody listening would like to do that, check out our website. And we've got all 5 of the food banks we're supporting in the local community are happy to accept them.
And so you mentioned obviously the members adapting very quickly to this sort of situation that we're in. Did you get any new members as the pandemic sort of hit? Was there like an onslaught of people that wanted to join and volunteer?
We've definitely had inquiries from people wanting to join. Yes, I wouldn't say it's been a huge increase. I think because a lot of people did want to volunteer, and I think a lot of that volunteering effort went towards the NHS, for example. So, for example, food banks, I thought they might need more volunteers at the early stages, but really they were kind of overrun with volunteers just because so many people wanted to help. What they really needed was money to buy food and that kind of thing. So that's changing now. So we do have more volunteering opportunities, which I've been getting involved with, sort of delivering food to homeless hostels and that sort of thing. So that's there, but I wouldn't say an avalanche of members, just because again we're haven't been so active in terms of promoting ourselves, especially with the crisis. We've just gotten on with it and tried to just respond. So we've raised about £8,000 already for local food banks, and I've been busy creating this club with your DMU students, that kind of thing. That's been keeping me very busy.
Yeah. So one of the positive things to have come out of this pandemic and out of Rotary as well that you've already mentioned is this food bank scheme. So Rotary for Food Banks. You introduced this scheme to Leicester as part of your commitment to talking less and doing more, I believe. And from what you've been able to achieve, so you've already just mentioned there 8,000 that you've been able to raise. It's clear that this is exactly what you're doing. But I suppose for the relevance of this webinar, could you just talk more about this scheme and what you're doing to alleviate the pressures that are on food banks currently?
So Rotary for Food Banks was started by a guy called John Cavey. He is a Rotarian in an adjacent district to ours. So I kind of heard about what he was doing, and I thought it'd be a great thing to bring to our district. So our club became kind of the guinea pig, really. So we brought it over, signed up to the scheme, and really it's a case of what the model is it's bringing together lots of food banks to make purchases at wholesale prices. So we've got a big supermarket, one of the big 5 supermarkets, have kindly allowed us to buy food from them, but at the prices they would pay, not the price that you would pay when you go to the shop, but the price they would buy the food for. And so we buy pallets of food, say about £500 worth at a time. And then the supermarket very kindly delivers those. I'll tell you, it's Morrison's. So they will actually, their trucks will deliver those pallets of food for free to the food banks. So we help in 2 ways. Either we're raising the money and donating the food to the food bank, or if the food bank wishes, they can purchase the food directly from through the scheme. And they're paying a lot less than they would pay if they went to a supermarket themselves.
Was it easy to get those supermarkets and partners involved and sort of offering you those prices?
I wasn't involved in negotiations on that side, but I believe, I mean, he only started the scheme, I think, in April. So he had it in place very quickly. I think it's great for everybody involved, because for the supermarkets, they do really want to help out. I mean, it's good for them in many ways. And so I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to be keen to help out. So yeah, I mean, I'm also in the process of working with some local supermarkets to try and get donation bins and that sort of thing set up, so we can collect food that way as well.
So what other projects have you been working on besides those 2 that you've mentioned, or is that the main sort of thing you've been working on?
Yeah, Rotary for Food Banks is really my main focus, and we're just running lots of events. So International Women's Day, we've been doing the Christmas hampers, we've got something called Music in the Park next year. All sorts of, I mean, we're very restricted, right, in terms of what we can do. We tried to organise curry nights and all sorts of other things, but then because of lockdown, all of that had to change. So really this up until Christmas, it was all kind of, what can we do given the constraints we're under? And then hopefully try and plan as much as we can in for next year, when potentially the lockdown restrictions will be lifted and we can do more physical events.
Yeah. And what was it like sort of getting volunteers to work for you? So like Beatriz, who we'll introduce in a moment, how did you come into contact with them, and how did you kind of distribute them to help out with Rotary for Food Banks?
Well, it's been great, and it's just been amazing to see how receptive young people are. I know we hear sort of people say things like, "Oh, young people spending too much time watching Netflix," and I'm sure many of them are. But the ones I've come across through DMU have just been amazing. They really want to give back. I don't know if that's a function of all the bars and things are closed, so they don't have anything else to do. That's just a joke. That's not true. I've just found them amazing. They want to give back. They want to get involved in local initiatives like Rotary for Food Banks. And so it was actually a friend of Beatriz's, her name's Maria, she contacted us wanting to just get involved in local Rotary things that we're involved in. And the first project we did together was me, Maria, and 3 of her friends. Beatriz was one of them. And we went out and collected money, you know, the little donation tins that you find at supermarkets. That was for a blind charity called Vista. And so we just went out and collected those. And that for me was just a test to see whether the students would be interested, and for me to ask them questions about other things they'd want to be involved in. And so I had the opportunity, and I felt that they'd be very receptive to something like starting their own club that we would then support. Because one advantage we bring to the table with my club is because they're older members, we have great resources, we have great contacts, we have great connections with local charities. But the thing we're lacking, I suppose, is lots of young people who really just want to get out there and get involved in volunteering. So that's why I really was keen to work with students, because they kind of fill in the last missing piece of our jigsaw. And so for the students, it's fantastic because they finally got now a club, or I suppose they know it as a society, but it's something they can get involved with where they're volunteering, which is great, looks great on their CV. It's great for something that they can do to kind of give back. But also, because of my club, we have lots of very influential people who can connect them and give them career advice. So it's kind of hitting lots of different tick boxes for them. So, for example, we have retired partners of KPMG, places like that. We have people who ran their own businesses and were very successful. I suppose by definition, to be a Rotarian is someone who's done well in whatever you did in your career. And now you've got the money and the time to give back. So they're precisely the kind of people I'd recommend students to spend time around and get the kind of assistance that they want for their career or other things they're involved with.
So is there sort of like a formal kind of mentorship thing that you have going on in the Rotary, or is it more like informal when older members meet with these younger members or with volunteers, that it's just like a natural kind of thing that comes out of that?
We've not had a chance yet because we've not been able to meet anybody. So
of course, yeah.
I think it will be informal. I think that's the way, if I was a student looking back, I would have liked it to be informal. So for example, one of our initiatives at the moment, which we're just putting together, is to paint a youth centre, just the kind of the internal side of it. And I guess there'll be some Rotarians doing their bit, and there'll be some students, and we'll probably have a pizza afterwards, and we'll just sit and chat, and conversations kind of naturally lead on to, so what is it you want to do after you've graduated? And my sister works at the bank, and she's a manager there, so why don't you talk to her? I mean, that's how it worked for me when I was young. And I left uni and I started building up my business. My best contacts were made like that, just very, very informal. But you've got to be out there to make those contacts. So this is a great way to kind of do something in which you come across those sorts of people, but not so formal as you might find in a networking event. Because I think people get very nervous, and it's, how do I approach someone? I've always found those kind of things don't work for me very well, the formal networking events.
And you mentioned there, like when you were younger and what you kind of wanted to achieve. I know we're sort of doing this the opposite way around, but do you want to just kind of give a little bit of an introduction about who you are and how you got here?
You mean my career, that sort of thing?
Yeah, your career, yeah, and after studying university.
I was just very lucky. I'd love to say it was really hard work and this and that. I did all that, but I was very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. I started an investment business about 2003, and I guess it just fell into place. I was very good at the internet marketing side. I was also very good at meeting investors, and I was also very good at dealing with people who wanted to sell things like real estate. So I kind of just put the whole thing, all those three together, and I was able to, and I'm still doing that now, where I buy real estate from people who've got a problem. They want to get rid of it because there's something wrong with it. And then I raise money from investors. So at the moment, it's retired sports people, dentists, doctors, people like that. I put money in myself. We transform those assets into something that's a lot more valuable. Perhaps we get planning permission, we do some construction work and that sort of thing. And then we rent it out or sell it and then take that money and do the same thing again. It's pretty boring to most people, but to me, it's the bit I like is to look at a spreadsheet and kind of look at the numbers, and the numbers tell a story. And it's amazing to see how I can how do I turn £1 into £2 just by kind of a bunch of paperwork and getting a bunch of people together. And it's really nice to work with smart people. That's the bit I like about it. I work with really smart, fun people all day long.
I think I need that bit of paperwork because I usually turn £1 into 50p. So I'd like to share notes. You mentioned before we went live that before you are where you are now, when you were nervous about sort of public speaking or networking and speaking with the right people, that you kind of just put yourself forwards and spoke to people that could kind of mentor you. Could you talk a little bit more about that and any advice that you would give to some young people, so anyone that maybe might join Rotary in the future?
Well, I mean, I'll give you a good example of one of my best contacts. It was, I got an email from somebody when I was just starting out, so I had no money really, and I was just trying to get into my business. And it was an email that said, if you've got £100,000 or more to invest, come along to this networking evening. And I thought to myself, how are they really going to know if I've got £100,000 to invest? So, and I was working nights at a crisps factory, a well-known crisps factory in Leicester. And so I just went along, I put a suit on, turned up, and met a bunch of people. Because I thought, if I go there, it's going to be a room full of people who've got money, and that I need money because I'm trying to get involved in my business. And at the end of it, the important thing I did was I offered the person running the event, I said to him, can I just help you clear up or something? And I was just clearing up. And a guest at the event who'd heard me talking to somebody else about how enthusiastic about what I was about this, my real estate business I was trying to start and the kind of deals I was coming across, he gave me his card and said, I was listening to you talk earlier on, and if you ever need £100,000 within a week, give me a call. I'll be happy to lend it to you. And that was one of the ways I got my business kind of going. So, going back to what I do as a student is I would get involved, like I said before, in organizations. It doesn't have to be Rotary, it could be anything. Get into places where you can be noticed by people who can influence and can help you out. And that's what I did. And I actually admitted to the guy who ran the event afterwards. I said, look, I don't really have that kind of money, and I just came along to make contacts. And he said, oh yeah, he goes, I know that half the people who come are just like you. So, it's just you've got to just take a chance and just see what happens sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's the perfect segue to now introduce our next guest, who is a student. She's a student at DMU, Beatriz. She's currently studying international relations and politics. She's originally from Portugal, where she found a passion for volunteering. And since moving to Leicester last year, Beatriz has continued to volunteer where she can alongside studying her degree. Hi, Beatriz.
Hello, how are you?
Offered a little bit of background into who you are, but could you tell us more about what inspired you to start volunteering in the first place, so back in Portugal, and how you then came to volunteer in Leicester for the Rotary and for Parmdeep?
Okay, so in Portugal, everything started in 2011 when I joined a Scouts group, and then we did like direct and indirectly volunteering. Like we used to clean beaches, we used to help in the Eucharist. We were Catholic Scouts, and we've done cleaning in the houses when we had the big fires in the summer 2016. And then with that gave me even more like motivation to continue volunteering. And I did like outside the Scouts environment, I did charity races for breast cancer. I participated on a food campaign. It's called Recolha Alimentar, that we distribute plastic bags so the people can put their food or like the essentials, and then we give it out to the people who really need them.
Great. And how did you get involved with volunteering here in Leicester and with Rotary?
Okay, so everything started when Parmdeep invited me and some other of my friends, like he said before, to work with him on the Vista project. There was like basically collecting boxes from like money for charity, and then we put the empty ones, and it was very fun. I really enjoyed it.
And so Parmdeep's mentioned the Rotary for Food Bank scheme, and I know you've helped out with this very recently, as well as some other DMU students. Could you just talk more a bit more about what you do as a volunteer?
For Rotary for Food Bank.
Rotary, yeah.
Okay. So we've done, first of all, we've done the Vista project. And last Sunday, I went with Parmdeep to participate for the first time for the food bank. And we went to a specific location, pick up bags with hot meals, and then we give it out to the hotels and hostels that people were staying there, like needy people, homeless and families. And we had the correct amount to give it out for everyone who subscribed for it.
And I understand, I may have got this wrong, but did you, Parmdeep, was your daughter there volunteering as well? Yeah.
Yes.
And she's how old?
She's 9, turning on 19.
And how did she find that?
She loves it. Yeah, I've tried to get my kids involved in this sort of thing. I want them to see that not everybody is as fortunate as us. If you have been fortunate in life, it's your duty to do something for other people who haven't been so fortunate. So that's what I'm trying to teach her, and she seems to be getting it and she enjoys it. That's the main thing. She does really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. So Beatriz, you've been volunteering with several other students from DMU, I believe, and I know it's in both yours and Parmdeep's plans to encourage as many students as possible to get involved with Rotary and just volunteering in general. Can you speak on this and the student Rotary Club that I believe you're setting up?
Yes. This Rotary Club basically is for Leicester students, can be DMU students or Leicester University students. Everyone either having an experience in volunteering or not is welcome to this project. And this idea started from Maria, but then some things happened, and then Parmdeep talked with me to manage this project, and the Rotary Club will be like a partner to us, and we would do like collaborations. We're gonna work together, and even though we are in a pandemic, I think we can still do something.
Of course, yeah. So for anyone who is watching this right now who's interested in volunteering but doesn't really know where to start, what words of advice can you give? I'll ask you, Beatriz, first, and then to Parmdeep. So how can they get involved with this student club as well?
They can get involved by sending an email. Our email is rotaryclubleicester@outlook.com. And I think, like in the situation we are now, we can start with doing small things like donating for charities, like directly sending funds, or searching for Facebook groups, or going to the Rotary Club or to the Rotary Club. Like, you can either do something, just don't stay at home doing nothing, just looking at the walls.
Definitely, and I think it's definitely important to note that it does start with the small things. You can't expect to go in and make a massive change straight away. It's the small things that build up to that. So I think that is a very important bit of advice to give. Parmdeep, do you have any advice for anyone watching who's interested in volunteering?
As Beatriz said, just go ahead and get involved. If you're a bit wary, then maybe join with a friend, so that you've got somebody else to go with, and you can have some fun that way. And also bear in mind, there's lots of restrictions on you as students in terms of socializing, but not when you're doing charity work. Charity work is exempt in many ways, so it's a great way to get a few friends together and do good while you mix, and obviously with appropriate social distancing and everything in place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And finally, in your own words, why do you think it's important for people to get involved where they can and give back to the community? So, Beatriz, I'm sure you can talk about why you decided to get involved.
I think, in my opinion, and I think that's a lot of people's opinion, volunteering is very rewarding activity. You can help others without expecting anything like material, but you do expect, and you always, like most of the times, receive like the love, the affection, and the gratefulness that the people gives you, and it's so rewarding, making someone's day special and happier, and it's so with so simple attitudes. So and I understand sometimes people don't have a lot of time to do it due to a busy lifestyle, but still you can always find out like an hour or something to help another one. And it's like an experience. You connect with other people, like Parmdeep said. You can bring a friend, and then you can meet another friends, meet new people, like get more involved in your community. And for us students, importantly, is very, very good for our CV, and it shows like a sense of responsibility. And for me, I think is a very good thing that I started when in 2011, and I hope to start to continue the other years.
And I'm sure it's very good for your mental health as well, especially as a student currently in this pandemic where things are completely abnormal. I know they're abnormal for everyone, but as a student where everything's gone online and you can't really see your friends anymore, I'm sure it's very rewarding and just good for your mental health to get out there and give back to other people.
Yeah, that's very true. On Sunday, when we done the Rotary for food banks, I was at home and I went out. I went with Parmdeep. We gave it out the hot meals, and by the end, I feel like very good because I was not stuck in my room again.
Yeah.
And it's so good to be out to do something and feel like helpful.
Exactly. And Parmdeep, same question for you. Why do you think it's important for people to get involved where they can?
Well, I think Beatriz gave a great list there, and I can't really add much to that. I think what I would say is that joining something like her club, the Rotary Club she's setting up, is everything's done for you. You don't have to worry about finding which charity or what do I do when I get there. It's all organized for you. If you take the example of what we did last week, delivering food, it took us an hour end to end. That included me driving to there and doing the work and then driving home again. So within an hour, and that you don't have to do every week. You could just do that once a month. So I think all of us can find an hour once a month to do something like that. And it's, you know, absolutely for mental health, it's brilliant because you go away, you feel great. You've done something selfless, and you know you've helped people, you've made a real difference. And I think it's important that we all understand that there are lots of people out there right now really suffering. You may not be one of them, but when you start to do things like this and you realize there are a lot of people who are really struggling, and through no fault of their own in many cases. So it does feel wonderful to go away and think, yeah, I've made a small difference in somebody else's life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time it's the part of not knowing what you're about to be doing, or it's the act of starting. And I think once you're involved, once you start volunteering and you see what it's like and you see that it is easy and you see that it's rewarding, that's when you sort of get in the flow of things and continue with it. So I think that's everything from me. Is there anything that I might have missed or that you would like to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
No.
No, I think if you'd like to get involved, just drop us a line through the website, Rotary Club of Leicester. Even if you just have a question and you're not sure about something, please feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to help or jump on the phone.
Great. So thank you to both of you for joining us today to talk about some of the amazing work that you've been doing in Leicester during the COVID-19 crisis. And I hope I'm not alone in feeling inspired by this and by your practices of goodwill in such a testing and trying time for not only the UK, but the rest of the world as well. And it's especially paramount that we promote this work that you've been doing and how to get involved, because I know we've touched on it, but there's a lot of people like Beatriz and other volunteers who genuinely want to get involved, but they don't know how to, and it's something as simple as that that's preventing them from doing so. So as Parmdeep's already mentioned, if there is anyone interested in giving back, we have left the link in the description box below where you can donate to Rotary for food banks and also find out more about becoming a volunteer. But that's it from me. Thanks again to both Parmdeep and Beatriz for taking the time today, and thanks to anyone for watching this. Bye.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.